A chance beginning. Jasmine Rivera stood frozen in the narrow supply room on the 30th floor of Blake Industries, her hands trembling as she clutched the hospital invoice. The numbers blurred through her tears, but she had memorized them anyway. $85,000 for the surgery her grandmother desperately needed. Rosa Rivera, the woman who had raised her alone after her parents passed away, who had worked 3 jobs to put Jasmine through community college, who had never asked for anything, now faced a battle she could not win without help. This job as executive assistant was supposed to be Jasmine's fresh start. After years of serving tables and taking night classes, she had finally landed a position at one of the city's most prestigious companies. Her first day should have been filled with excitement and determination. Instead, she had made it exactly 4 hours before the weight of her reality crushed her composure. The supply room had seemed like a safe place to fall apart. Nobody needed printer paper at 2 in the afternoon. She could have 5 minutes to cry, to release the fear that had been building since the doctor's appointment 3 days ago. Then she would pull herself together. She would figure something out. She always did. The door opened without warning. Cameron Blake stood in the doorway, his tall frame filling the space. His dark suit was perfectly tailored, his expression shifting from mild surprise to immediate concern. Jasmine recognized him instantly from the company website and her brief orientation. The CEO himself, the man whose empire employed 3,000 people, was staring at her tear-stained face with an intensity that made her wish the floor would open and swallow her whole. "I'm so sorry," Jasmine stammered, frantically wiping her eyes. "I just needed a moment. I'll get back to work right now." But Cameron did not move from the doorway. Instead, he did something completely unexpected. He stepped inside, closed the door gently behind him, and lowered himself to sit on the floor across from her. Right there, among the boxes of copy paper and folders, the CEO of $1 billion company sat on the floor of a supply closet, his expensive suit creasing against cardboard boxes, looking at her with eyes that held no judgment, only quiet concern. What happened? His voice was softer than she had imagined it would be. Jasmine opened her mouth to say she was fine, to apologize again and escape this mortifying situation. But something about the genuine care in his expression, the way he had made himself vulnerable by sitting down with her, broke through her defenses. "My grandmother," she heard herself say, "she raised me after my parents died. She gave up everything for me, worked herself to exhaustion so I could go to school. And now she needs surgery, an operation that could save her life, but insurance won't cover it. The doctor says without it, she has maybe 6 months." The words tumbled out, and with them came fresh tears. Jasmine held up the crumpled invoice with shaking hands, unable to meet his eyes. Cameron took the paper carefully, his fingers brushing hers for just a moment. That brief contact sent an unexpected warmth through her, a connection she could not explain. She watched his face as he read, saw his jaw tighten with each line. "An impossible kindness, Rosa Rivera," Cameron read aloud quietly. "Your grandmother?" "The only family I have left," Jasmine whispered. "I've been working 3 jobs trying to save up, but it's not enough. It will never be enough in time." Cameron folded the invoice carefully and handed it back to her. Then he did something that stopped her breath entirely. He pulled out his phone, made a brief call, and within 2 minutes had arranged for a complete financial consultation with the hospital's billing department and his personal physician. "Wait," Jasmine said, her mind spinning. "What are you doing?" "Making sure your grandmother gets the care she needs," Cameron replied simply. "My assistant will coordinate everything. The surgery will be scheduled as soon as the medical team is ready. All costs covered." Jasmine stared at him in disbelief. "I can't accept that. It's too much. I don't even know you. Then let's change that." Cameron's expression softened into something that looked almost like a smile. "Tell me about her. Tell me about the woman who means so much to you that you're willing to work yourself to exhaustion to save her." Something in his tone, gentle but firm, made Jasmine realize he was not offering charity. He was offering connection. And despite every logical reason to refuse, despite the impossibility of the situation, she found herself talking. She told him about Rosa's journey from Mexico, arriving with nothing but determination and love for a granddaughter who had suddenly become her responsibility. She spoke of the long nights when Rosa would sew clothes for wealthy clients while Jasmine did homework at the kitchen table. Of the school plays Rosa never missed, despite working double shifts. Of Sunday dinners, where they made traditional recipes and Rosa would tell stories of their family's history, Cameron listened without interrupting, his full attention focused on her words. No one had ever listened to Jasmine like this, as if every detail mattered. As if her story was the most important thing in the world at that moment. "She sounds remarkable," Cameron said when Jasmine finally paused, "like someone who understands what true wealth really is." "What do you mean?" "Love, sacrifice, the willingness to give everything for someone else's future." He stood and offered his hand to help her up. "That kind of wealth is rare. Everything else is just numbers." Jasmine took his hand, feeling that electric connection again as he pulled her to her feet. Standing this close, she could see that his eyes were not just brown but held flecks of amber, that a small scar marked his left eyebrow, that when he looked at her, really looked at her, she felt seen in a way she never had before. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You don't know me. I'm just another employee. You're not just anything, Jasmine." The way he said her name, carefully and warmly, made her heart skip. "And I'm doing this because when my own grandmother was sick, someone helped us when we had nothing. She made me promise that if I ever had the means, I would pay that kindness forward. Besides," he added, and now there was definitely a smile playing at his lips, "something tells me you're going to be far more than just another employee, the beginning of something over the next few days." Jasmine watched in amazement as Cameron kept his word. Rosa's surgery was scheduled at the city's best hospital. The medical team was assembled. Every bill was handled. But more than that, Cameron checked in personally. He asked how Rosa was feeling, if Jasmine needed time off for appointments, whether there was anything else he could do. Their interactions grew longer. A quick question about a meeting would turn into a conversation about their lives. Cameron would appear at her desk with coffee, claiming he was on his way to get some anyway. Jasmine found herself looking forward to these moments, to the way his serious executive demeanor would soften when they talked, to the genuine interest he showed in her thoughts and opinions. "You're different than I expected," Jasmine admitted one evening as they were both working late. "How so?" Cameron looked up from his laptop. "Articles make you sound cold, ruthless, all business, no heart." "And what do you think now?" Jasmine considered her words carefully. "I think those articles were written by people who never sat on a supply room floor with you." Cameron's laugh was warm and genuine. "That's a pretty exclusive club. Population of 2. Why did you do that?" Jasmine asked. "Sit down with me that day. Most bosses would have just walked away or sent HR." Cameron was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "My father built this company, and when he died, everyone expected me to be just like him. Brilliant, strategic, but distant. Cold, like those articles say. I spent years trying to be that person because I thought that's what success looked like." He met her eyes. "Then I found someone crying in my supply room, and I remembered what my grandmother used to tell me. The measure of a person is not in what they achieve, but in how they treat others when no one is watching." "Someone was watching," Jasmine pointed out softly. "Were they?" Cameron's voice dropped lower. "Because from where I was sitting, it felt like it was just you and me. No titles, no expectations. Just two people having an honest moment. The air between them felt charged with possibility. Jasmine knew she should step back, maintain professional distance, remember that he was the CEO and she was his assistant. But she could not deny what she felt. The connection that had formed in that supply room and grown stronger with every conversation. "Cameron," she began. But he raised a hand gently. "I know this is complicated. I know there are a dozen reasons why we should keep things professional. But Jasmine, I can't stop thinking about you. About that strength I saw when you were at your most vulnerable. About the way you light up when you talk about helping others. About how every conversation with you feels more real than anything else in my life." Jasmine's breath caught. "I feel it too. But I'm scared. What if this doesn't work? What if I lose my job? What if I'm not enough for your world?" Cameron stood and walked around the desk until he was standing in front of her. You are more than enough. And as for your job, you earned that position. You have a degree, experience, and talent that had nothing to do with me. But this, he gestured between them, this is separate. This is about two people who found something unexpected and real. What are you saying? I'm saying, let's take this slowly. Let's get to know each other outside these office walls. Let me take you to dinner, not as your boss, but as someone who wants to spend time with you. No pressure, no expectations. Just a chance to see where this goes. Jasmine looked into his eyes, seeing hope and vulnerability there. She thought about Rosa, about the kindness Cameron had shown without asking for anything in return. She thought about how he made her feel valued and seen, and she thought about the way her heart raced every time he smiled at her. Okay, she said. One dinner. But I have conditions. Name them. We go somewhere normal. No fancy restaurants where I need a translator for the menu. And you tell me something real about yourself, something the business magazines don't know. Cameron's smile was brilliant. Deal, how about Friday? And fair warning, the real me is probably less interesting than you're imagining. I doubt that. Jasmine found herself smiling back. You sat on a supply room floor in a $3,000 suit. That's pretty interesting already. As Cameron returned to his office, Jasmine touched the place on her hand where he had helped her up days ago. In that moment, surrounded by crises and tears, something had begun. Something that felt like it could change everything. And for the first time since reading that hospital invoice, Jasmine felt something besides fear. She felt hope. A new beginning Friday. Evening arrived with the kind of nervous energy that made Jasmine change outfits 3 times. She finally settled on a simple navy dress that Tyler had insisted made her eyes sparkle. Her best friend had spent the last hour giving advice, most of it contradictory, before finally hugging her and pushing her out the door. Just be yourself, Tyler had said. That's who he's interested in, not some polished version you think he wants. Now, standing outside the small Italian restaurant Cameron had chosen, Jasmine felt her hands trembling slightly. This was real. She was going on a date with Cameron Blake. The man who had shown her more kindness in a week than she had experienced in years. Cameron was already there. Standing by the entrance in dark jeans and a simple button-down shirt. Without the executive armor of his suits, he looked younger, more approachable. When he saw her, his face lit up in a way that made her nervousness dissolve. You look beautiful, he said simply, offering his arm. You look different, Jasmine replied, taking it. Good different. More real. That's the goal tonight. No CEO, no assistant. Just Cameron and Jasmine. The restaurant was perfect. Small, cozy, with checkered tablecloths and the smell of fresh bread filling the air. Cameron explained that his grandmother used to bring him here as a child, that the owner still remembered him and called him by his childhood nickname. Little Cam, the elderly owner announced, embracing Cameron warmly. And who is this lovely young lady? This is Jasmine, Uncle Marco, someone very special. The warmth in Cameron's voice when he said those words made Jasmine's heart flutter. Throughout dinner, they talked about everything. Cameron shared stories about his childhood, about the pressure of taking over the company at 28 when his father passed unexpectedly, about the loneliness of always having to be perfect. People see the success, he said, twirling pasta on his fork. They don't see the nights when I can't sleep, wondering if I'm making the right decisions. They don't see how isolating it is when you can't tell if people like you or your bank account. I like you, Jasmine said quietly. The you who sits on supply room floors? The you who remembers his grandmother's favorite restaurant. That's the person I see. Cameron reached across the table and took her hand. That's why you're special, Jasmine. You see the real me, meeting the family, 3 weeks passed in a blur of stolen moments and deepening connection. Cameron and Jasmine were careful at the office, maintaining professionalism even as their relationship grew outside work hours. But it was becoming harder to hide the way they looked at each other. The subtle smiles they shared. Rosa's surgery was scheduled for the following month, and Jasmine had been updating Cameron regularly on her grandmother's health. One evening, as they sat in Cameron's car after dinner, Jasmine took a deep breath. She wants to meet you, Jasmine said. Rosa, she says she needs to thank the man who saved her life and look into the eyes of the person who has made her granddaughter so happy. Cameron's expression softened. I would be honored. When? Sunday dinner. Fair warning, she's going to interrogate you. She'll want to know your intentions, your family history, probably your favorite color, and childhood fears. She's protective, good, Cameron said firmly. You deserve people who protect you. And as for intentions, he turned to face her fully. I intend to keep seeing you. Keep learning about you and keep falling for you. Is that clear enough? Jasmine felt her breath catch. You're falling for me? Jasmine, I fell for you the moment you told me about a woman who gave up everything for love. How could I not fall for someone who carries that same kind of love in her heart? Sunday arrived, and Cameron showed up at Rosa's modest apartment with flowers and a box of traditional Mexican pastries he had researched specifically for the occasion. Rosa answered the door, smaller and frailer than Jasmine had described, but with eyes that held fierce intelligence and love. So you are the mysterious Cameron, Rosa said, in accented English, looking him up and down. Come in. Let me see if you are worthy of my Jasmine. The dinner was a test, and Cameron knew it. Rosa asked pointed questions about his life, his values, his plans for the future. She asked about his parents, his faith, his understanding of family. Through it all, Cameron answered honestly, never trying to impress, just showing who he truly was. You have money, Rosa finally said during dessert. Money is easy to have, easy to lose. What do you have that lasts? Cameron thought carefully before answering. Respect for people who sacrifice for others, gratitude for second chances, and if I'm very fortunate, the love of your granddaughter. Rosa studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Love is not about big gestures. Cameron Blake. Love is showing up every day, even when it is hard. Love is sitting with someone in their pain, not trying to fix everything, just being present. Can you do that? I want to try, Cameron said, looking at Jasmine. She's worth trying for. Rosa smiled for the first time that evening. Good answer. Now, tell me about this company of yours. My Jasmine says you want to expand the foundation programs? The conversation shifted, and Jasmine watched in amazement as her grandmother and Cameron began discussing community initiatives and youth programs. Rosa had opinions, strong ones, about what really helped families in need. Cameron listened, took notes on his phone, and asked thoughtful questions as the evening ended and they prepared to leave. Rosa pulled Cameron aside while Jasmine gathered her things. You care for her, Rosa said. It was not a question very much. Then you should know something. Jasmine has been hurt before. She trusts slowly. She will not tell you when she is scared or when she doubts herself. You must see it, understand it, and be patient. I will, Cameron promised. Rosa patted his hand. I believe you. I'll go. Make my granddaughter happy. In the car, Jasmine was quiet until Cameron asked what she was thinking. She likes you, Jasmine said, wonder in her voice. Rosa doesn't like anyone easily, but she likes you. Oh, I like her too. She's remarkable, just like you said. Now I understand where you get your strength. A turning point the following Monday, Cameron called Jasmine into his office. Her heart raced, worried something had changed, but his expression was excited rather than serious. I have a proposal, he said, gesturing for her to sit. The Blake Foundation needs a new program coordinator. Someone who understands community needs, who has lived experience, who cares deeply about making a difference. Okay, Jasmine said slowly. Do you want me to help recruit someone? I want you to take the position. Jasmine stared at him. Cameron, I've only been here a month, and in that month, you've reorganized my entire filing system, streamlined 3 major processes, and proposed 2 initiatives that Margaret says are brilliant. This isn't charity, Jasmine. This is recognizing talent. Margaret agrees. She's the one who suggested it. But people will talk. They'll say, I only got it because we're together. Cameron leaned forward, his expression serious. Let them talk. You earned this. And honestly, I'd rather you work in the foundation anyway. It solves the whole boss and employee complication. Margaret would be your supervisor, not me. You've really thought this through. I think about you constantly, Cameron admitted. About your dreams, your potential, your happiness. Is that so wrong? Jasmine felt tears welling up, but these were different from the ones she had cried in the supply room. These were tears of gratitude and hope. When do I start? Building something real. Jasmine's transition to the Blake Foundation was seamless. Margaret Hayes, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and sharp intelligence, welcomed her warmly and made it clear that while she knew about Jasmine's relationship with Cameron, the job offer was based purely on merit. I've reviewed your proposals, Margaret said during their first meeting. You have a gift for seeing what communities actually need rather than what we think they need. That's rare and valuable. The work was challenging and fulfilling. Jasmine developed programs for youth mentorship, connecting teens in difficult situations with successful professionals who could guide them. She created family support networks and educational initiatives. Every day she saw the impact of her work in real people's lives. One afternoon, she was working with Daniel, a 14-year-old boy who had been through 4 foster homes. He was bright but defensive, pushing away every attempt at connection. Why do you care? Daniel asked bluntly during their session. You get paid to care. It's not real. Jasmine put down her pen and looked at him directly. You're right. I do get paid. But I also know what it's like to lose your parents. I know what it's like to feel like the world is against you. And I know what it's like when one person decides you're worth their time. Daniel's tough exterior cracked slightly. Someone did that for you? My grandmother. And more recently, someone else showed me that asking for help isn't weakness. It's courage. Over the following weeks, Daniel slowly opened up. Jasmine connected him with a mentor, helped him with his schoolwork, and advocated for a more stable placement. Watching him begin to trust again filled her with a sense of purpose she had never experienced. Cameron would often visit the foundation, officially to check on operations, but really to see Jasmine in her element. He loved watching her work, seeing the passion and care she brought to every interaction. You're incredible with them, he said one evening as they walked through the foundation's community center. These kids trust you, 'cause I see them, Jasmine replied. Really see them, not as problems to solve, but as people with potential. Kind of like someone once did for me in a supply room. Cameron stopped walking and turned to face her. The center was empty, the evening light filtering through the windows, casting everything in gold. Jasmine Rivera, he said softly. I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me. I'm listening. I'm in love with you. Not falling, not starting to, but completely, wholly in love with you. I love your strength and your vulnerability. I love how you fight for people who can't fight for themselves. I love waking up knowing I'll see you that day. I love who I am when I'm with you. Jasmine felt her eyes fill with tears. Cameron, I love you too. I think I have since that first day when you sat down on that floor and treated me like I mattered. You do matter. You matter more than anything. He pulled a small box from his pocket, and Jasmine's breath caught. I'm not proposing, Cameron said quickly, seeing her expression. Not yet. But I wanted you to have this. He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a small key pendant. It's the key to my grandmother's house, Cameron explained. She gave it to me before she died and told me to give it to the woman I wanted to build a life with. This key represents home, not a place, but a person. You're my home, Jasmine, trembling hands. Jasmine let him fasten the necklace around her neck. The key rested against her heart, warm from his touch. I want to build that life with you, she whispered. I want everything with you. Their kiss was soft and deep, filled with promise and hope. Around them, the community center stood as a testament to what they were building together. Not just a relationship, but a shared purpose. A combined dream of making the world better. Challenges and growth. Not everything was perfect. Jasmine faced skepticism from some of Cameron's business associates who saw her as an outsider. At a charity gala, she overheard 2 women discussing her. She was his assistant, one said. Now, she's running foundation programs and wearing designer dresses. We all know what that means. The words stung, But Cameron's response when she told him was immediate and fierce. "Those people don't matter," he said. "Their opinions are worthless. You earned your position, and anyone who can't see that is blind. But Cameron, this affects you too. Your reputation, your business relationships." "I don't care," he said firmly. "I spent too many years caring what others thought, trying to fit into their narrow definitions of success. You taught me what really matters. If they can't respect that, they can take their business elsewhere." Jasmine also struggled with imposter syndrome, wondering if she truly belonged in this world of wealth and influence. Tyler helped ground her during their weekly coffee dates. "You're not an imposter," Tyler insisted. "You're someone who worked 3 jobs to put herself through school. Someone who never gave up on her dreams. The only difference now is you have resources to match your heart." Rosa's surgery approached, and despite the excellent medical team, Jasmine was terrified. Cameron took time off work to be with her at the hospital, holding her hand through every anxious hour of waiting. When the surgeon finally emerged with good news, that the operation was successful and Rosa's prognosis was excellent, Jasmine collapsed into Cameron's arms, crying with relief. "She's going to be okay," she sobbed. "She's really going to be okay. Because of you," Cameron said, stroking her hair. "Because you fought for her. Because you had the courage to break down in a supply room and let someone help." Rosa's recovery was slow but steady. During her hospital stay, Cameron visited regularly, bringing flowers and books, sitting with the elderly woman while Jasmine was at work. The bond between them grew, with Rosa treating Cameron like the grandson she never had. "You take care of my girl," Rosa told him one afternoon. "Always," Cameron promised. "She's my everything." Moving forward, 6 months after that first meeting in the supply room, Cameron and Jasmine's relationship had deepened into something unshakable. They had faced challenges, overcome doubts, and built something real and lasting. One evening, Cameron took Jasmine back to the Italian restaurant where they had their first date. Uncle Marco greeted them like family, guiding them to a private table on the patio. "I need to ask you something," Cameron said once they were alone. Jasmine's heart began to race. "Okay, move in with me. I know it's fast, and I know there will be talk, but I don't want to spend another night without you. I want to wake up next to you. I want to build a home together, a real home filled with love and purpose." Jasmine thought about her tiny apartment, about the life she had built through sheer determination. Then she thought about the life she could build with Cameron, the impact they could make together, the love they shared. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I want that too." Cameron's smile was radiant. "I have one more question, but I need you to think carefully before answering." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring box. Jasmine's breath stopped entirely. "I know this is fast. I know people will say we're rushing, but Jasmine, when you know, you know. You're my partner, my best friend, my home. Will you marry me? Will you build this life with me, not as my assistant or my girlfriend, but as my wife?" Tears streamed down Jasmine's face as she looked at the man who had changed everything, who had seen her at her lowest and chosen to lift her up, who loved her not for what she could give him, but for who she was. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Cameron Blake, I will marry you." The ring slid onto her finger perfectly, and their kiss was witnessed by Uncle Marco, who was crying almost as much as they were. Later that night, lying in Cameron's arms, Jasmine touched the key around her neck and the ring on her finger. "What are you thinking?" Cameron asked softly. "That life can change in an instant? That 6 months ago, I was crying in a supply room, thinking my world was ending. And now look at us." "Look at us," Cameron agreed. "Building something beautiful." "I want to tell Daniel tomorrow," Jasmine said, "about us getting engaged. I want him to see that good things can happen, that life can surprise you." "You're going to be an amazing wife," Cameron said, kissing her forehead. "And someday, when we're ready, an amazing mother." Jasmine snuggled closer, feeling safe and loved in a way she had never imagined possible. Outside the window, the city lights twinkled like promises of the future they would build together. Unexpected news 3 months into their engagement? Jasmine stood in Cameron's penthouse bathroom, staring at the pregnancy test in her trembling hands. 2 pink lines, clear, undeniable, impossible to ignore. She sank to the floor, her back against the cool tile wall, trying to process what this meant. They were not married yet. The wedding was planned for spring, 3 months away. This was not how things were supposed to happen. Fear gripped her chest. What would Cameron think? Would he feel trapped? Would this change everything between them? They had talked about children eventually, but eventually was supposed to be years away after marriage. After they were established and ready, Jasmine heard the apartment door open, Cameron's voice calling out that he was home early from his meeting. She quickly hid the test in her pocket and tried to compose herself, but when she looked in the mirror, her red eyes and pale face betrayed everything. Jasmine. Cameron appeared in the bedroom doorway, his expression immediately shifting to concern. What's wrong, is it, Rosa? Did something happen? Unable to speak, Jasmine pulled the test from her pocket and held it out to him. The silence that followed felt eternal. Cameron took the test, studied it, then looked at her with an expression she could not read. You're pregnant, he said quietly. I'm sorry, Jasmine whispered. I know this isn't what we planned. I know the timing is terrible. I know people will talk and judge, and I'm so scared, Cameron. I'm terrified. Hey, Cameron set down the test and knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Why are you apologizing? Because this changes everything. Because we're not even married yet. Because I know this isn't what you wanted right now. Cameron's laugh was soft and filled with wonder. Jasmine, look at me. She raised her eyes to meet his, expecting to see disappointment or worry. Instead, she saw joy. Pure, unfiltered joy. We're going to have a baby, he said, his voice thick with emotion. We created a life together. How could that be anything but amazing? You're not upset? Upset? Jasmine, I'm thrilled. Scared out of my mind, but thrilled. Yes, the timing is unexpected. Yes, people will talk. But you know what? We've never done things the conventional way. Why start now? He pulled her into his arms, and Jasmine felt the fear begin to dissolve, replaced by tentative hope. Are you sure? She asked against his chest. Really sure? Because, Cameron, this is huge. A baby changes everything. I know it does. And I can't wait for every single change. He pulled back to look at her, cupping her face gently. We're going to be parents, Jasmine. We're going to raise a child who knows what real love looks like, who grows up seeing parents who respect and support each other. That's incredible. Tears flowed freely now, but they were different tears. Relief, gratitude, and growing excitement. I'm about 8 weeks along, Jasmine said. I've been feeling strange for a while, but I thought it was just stress from wedding planning. Have you seen a doctor yet? I have an appointment scheduled for Monday. I was going to go alone, figure things out first, but now I want you there. If you want to be there. Cameron kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I want to be there for everything. Every appointment, every milestone, every moment. You're not doing this alone, Jasmine. We're partners, remember? Adjusting plans that night, they lay in bed talking about the future, their hands resting on Jasmine's still flat stomach. We should move the wedding up, Cameron said. Not because we have to, but because I want to marry you now. I don't want to wait 3 more months. People will definitely talk then, Jasmine pointed out. They'll think we're only getting married because of the baby. Let them think whatever they want. We know the truth. I was going to marry you anyway. This just means I get to call you my wife sooner. Jasmine turned to face him. You really mean that? Every word. How about next month? Small ceremony, just close family and friends. We can have it at the foundation, surrounded by the kids and the work we both love. That feels more us than any fancy venue. Next month, Jasmine repeated, trying to imagine it. That's fast. We're having a baby in 7 months. That's faster. Jasmine laughed despite herself. Fair point. Okay. Next month. But Cameron, I need you to promise me something. Anything. If this gets too hard, if the pressure becomes too much, if you start to regret any of this, you have to tell me. I can't handle dishonesty. I'd rather face hard truths than comforting lies. Cameron pulled her close. I promise to always be honest with you, and I promise that I will never regret this. Any of it. You, the baby, our life together. This is what I want, Jasmine. This messy, unexpected, beautiful life with you. The doctor's appointment on Monday confirmed everything. Jasmine was healthy. The baby was developing normally. And their due date was set for late June. Cameron asked a million questions, took notes on his phone, and looked at the ultrasound screen with such wonder that the nurse commented she had never seen a father so immediately engaged. "That's our baby," Cameron kept saying, staring at the grainy image. "That tiny little blob is ours." Leaving the clinic, Cameron pulled Jasmine close. "We need to tell Rosa and my sister. And Margaret. They're all going to have opinions," Jasmine warned. "Probably. But they love us. They'll support us." Family reactions. Rosa's reaction was everything Jasmine hoped for. The elderly woman cried, laughed, and immediately began planning. Talking about baby clothes she would make and traditional remedies for morning sickness. "This baby will be so loved," Rosa said, holding Jasmine's face in her weathered hands. "So very loved." Olivia Blake, Cameron's younger sister, flew in from Boston the moment she heard. She was thrilled about the baby and the moved-up wedding, immediately taking charge of planning details with an efficiency that made Jasmine grateful and slightly overwhelmed. "I've got this," Olivia assured them. "You focus on staying healthy and happy. I'll handle the logistics." Margaret's response surprised Jasmine most. The older woman hugged her tightly and whispered, "Life has a way of giving us what we need when we need it. This baby is already blessed to have you as parents." The wedding planning became a joyful whirlwind. True to Cameron's vision, they decided to hold the ceremony in the foundation's rooftop garden. Daniel and the other youth they worked with were excited to be included, helping with decorations and planning. "What? You're really getting married here?" Daniel asked Jasmine one afternoon. "Not in some fancy hotel. This place represents what Cameron and I believe in," Jasmine explained. "That family isn't just about blood. It's about people who choose to love and support each other. You're all part of our family, Daniel. We wanted you here to witness this." The 14-year-old looked away, but not before Jasmine saw tears in his eyes. "Nobody ever wanted me at their wedding before." "Well, we do, and we want you involved. Would you do a reading during the ceremony? Something about hope and new beginnings?" Daniel nodded, not trusting his voice. Moments like these reminded Jasmine why their work mattered. Why building a life centered on helping others was so important. The wedding there. Wedding day arrived with clear skies and warm sunshine. The rooftop garden was transformed with simple white flowers and flowing ribbons. Folding chairs were arranged in rows, and a simple arch stood at the front, decorated with roses. Jasmine wore a simple white dress that accommodated her barely visible baby bump. Rosa had sewn delicate lace details onto the hem, a connection to their heritage and history. Around her neck, she wore the key Cameron had given her, and on her finger, the engagement ring sparkled in the sunlight. Cameron stood at the altar in a simple gray suit. His eyes locked on Jasmine as she walked down the aisle on Tyler's arm. There were no bridesmaids or groomsmen, just two people promising their lives to each other, surrounded by those who mattered most. The ceremony was short, but deeply personal. They had written their own vows, speaking from the heart about the journey that brought them together. Jasmine Cameron began, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. 6 months ago, I found you crying in a supply room, and you changed my life forever. You've taught me that strength comes in many forms, that vulnerability is not weakness. Real success is measured in lives touched and love shared. I promise to support your dreams, to stand beside you in challenges, to be the partner you deserve. I promise to be the father our child deserves, to lead with compassion, and to love you more deeply with each passing day." Jasmine's voice trembled as she spoke her vows. "Cameron, you saw me when I felt invisible. You valued me when I doubted my worth. You showed me that asking for help is not giving up, but opening yourself to possibility. I promise to be your safe place, your honest voice, your biggest supporter. I promise to build a life with you based on authenticity and purpose. I promise to love you in the good times and the hard times. To be a true partner in every way." When the officiant pronounced them married, their kiss was witnessed by cheers from the youth group. happy tears from Rosa, and applause from everyone gathered. They were no longer just Cameron and Jasmine. They were the Blakes, a family about to grow, ready to face whatever came next. The reception was held in the foundation's main hall. Decorated by the kids with handmade centerpieces and colorful streamers, instead of a traditional cake, they had cupcakes in various flavors, each one decorated by a different youth. Daniel stood to give his reading during the reception, his voice strong despite his nervousness. Hope is not about perfect circumstances, he read from the piece he had written. Hope is about people who choose to believe in you when you can't believe in yourself. Cameron and Jasmine gave me hope. They showed me that family is something you build, not something you're born into. They proved that love is real, that second chances exist, that tomorrow can be better than today. There was not a dry eye in the room when he finished. Cameron and Jasmine both hugged him, and Jasmine whispered, "Thank you for being part of our family." Building their life, the months that followed were a beautiful chaos. Jasmine and Cameron settled into married life while preparing for the baby. They transformed one of the penthouse's guest rooms into a nursery, painting it in soft colors and filling it with books and toys. Jasmine continued her work at the foundation, though Cameron insisted she cut back her hours as her pregnancy progressed. She divided her time between program development and mentoring, finding fulfillment in both. At 28 weeks pregnant, during a routine ultrasound, they learned they were having a daughter. Cameron cried openly, overwhelmed with joy and responsibility. "A girl," he kept saying. "We're having a little girl. Are you disappointed it's not a boy?" Jasmine asked, studying his face. "Disappointed? Jasmine, I'm terrified and ecstatic. I get to raise a daughter who will know her worth, who will see what a healthy relationship looks like, who will grow up knowing she can be anything." "That's incredible." They decided to name her Grace, honoring Cameron's grandmother and representing the grace that had brought them together. Rosa was delighted, immediately starting to make tiny dresses and blankets. "My great-granddaughter," she would say with wonder. "I lived to see this day." As Jasmine's due date approached, Cameron became increasingly protective and attentive. He attended every childbirth class, read every parenting book, and prepared for fatherhood with the same dedication he brought to everything. "You're going to be an amazing dad," Jasmine told him one night as they lay in bed, his hand on her enormous belly, feeling Grace kick. "I want to be the father she deserves. I want to be present, engaged, supportive. I want her to know she's loved unconditionally." "She already does," Jasmine assured him. "You talk to her every night. You play music for her. You're already her dad." Grace's arrival, Grace Rosa Blake, arrived on a warm June morning, 3 days past her due date. The labor was long and intense, but Cameron never left Jasmine's side. Holding her hand through every contraction, encouraging her through every push. When Grace finally arrived, screaming her presence into the world, both parents cried. The nurse placed the tiny, perfect baby on Jasmine's chest, and time seemed to stop. "She's here," Jasmine whispered, looking down at the dark-haired infant. "Our daughter is here?" Cameron touched Grace's tiny hand, overwhelmed as her fingers instinctively curled around his. "Hello, Grace. We're your parents, and we love you so much." The first few weeks were exhausting and magical. Sleepless nights blurred into endless days of diaper changes, feedings, and the wonder of watching their daughter exist. Rosa visited daily, cooking meals and sharing wisdom from her own experiences, raising a baby alone. Cameron took a month off work, determined to be fully present for these early days. He learned to change diapers, mastered swaddling, and became an expert at soothing Grace's fussy evenings. "You're a natural," Jasmine observed one night, watching him walk the floor with Grace against his shoulder. "I had a good teacher," Cameron replied, referring to Rosa. "And I'm motivated. I don't want to miss anything." Daniel visited regularly, amazed by the tiny baby. "She's so small," he said with wonder, when Jasmine let him hold her carefully. "You're part of her story," Jasmine told him. "Part of our family's story? Someday we'll tell her about the brave young man who spoke at our wedding about hope and second chances." A new chapter. When Grace was 3 months old, Cameron surprised Jasmine with news. "I've been thinking," he said one evening after Grace was asleep, "about the foundation and our work there. What about it? I want to create something new. The Grace Blake Foundation, dedicated specifically to helping children in foster care and supporting families like Rosa, who take on the responsibility of raising their grandchildren. I want you to run it, Jasmine. It would be yours to shape however you think will make the most impact. Jasmine stared at him. Cameron, that's enormous. The funding alone would be substantial. We have the resources. What we need is someone with the vision, the passion, and the lived experience to make it meaningful. That's you, but Grace needs me. I can't just dive into launching a whole foundation right now. You can do it on your terms, Cameron said. Work from home when you need to. Bring Grace to meetings. Hire staff to handle the day-to-day operations. This is about creating a legacy, not just for Grace, but for all the kids who need what you needed, what Daniel needs. Someone who sees them and fights for them. Jasmine looked down at their sleeping daughter, thinking about all the children who did not have what Grace had. To parents who loved each other, financial security, a safe home, a bright future, she thought about Rosa, about the sacrifices made, about the power of one person choosing to show up for a child. Okay, she said. Let's do it. But I have conditions. Name them. Include the youth in planning. Daniel and the others have insights we need. We don't just create programs for them, but with them. And we make sure a portion of funding goes to supporting elderly caregivers like Rosa, who take on raising children when they should be resting. Cameron smiled. Perfect. That's exactly why you're the right person for this. Over the next few months, they began laying the groundwork for the Grace Blake Foundation. Jasmine worked part-time, balancing motherhood with her passion for helping others. She created a model that was innovative and practical, centering the voices of those the foundation aimed to serve. Daniel became the foundation's first youth advisory board member, a role he took seriously. Watching him grow in confidence and purpose reminded Jasmine why this work mattered. Full circle on Grace's first birthday, they held a celebration at the foundation. The space was decorated with colorful balloons and streamers. And the guest list included everyone who had been part of their journey. Rosa, now healthy and vibrant. Olivia, who had become a doting aunt. Margaret, who treated Grace like a granddaughter. Tyler, who claimed the title of favorite honorary uncle. And all the youth from their programs, who had watched this family form and grow. As Jasmine watched Cameron help Grace smash her birthday cake, getting frosting everywhere and laughing with pure joy, she thought about how far they had come. From that moment in the supply room, when her world seemed to be ending, to this moment, surrounded by love and possibility, the journey had been unexpected and beautiful. What are you thinking? Cameron asked, coming to stand beside her with Grace on his hip, her face covered in pink frosting. That I'm grateful, Jasmine said simply. For everything. For you sitting on that supply room floor. For your kindness that changed everything. For this perfect chaos we've created. I'm the grateful one, Cameron replied. You gave me purpose beyond profit. You showed me what really matters. You gave me this? He gestured to Grace, then to the room full of people celebrating, a real family built on love and choice. Grace reached for Jasmine, and she took their daughter, holding her close. The key Cameron had given her still hung around her neck, a reminder of promises made and kept.